Hi everyone, I'm Trev from Coiltek, and today I am going to talk with Gerry from Gerry's Detectors in Idaho in the USA. He's a fantastic dealer of ours through the USA, very experienced detector operator, and he's been using the new NOX coils for a few weeks now. Hi Gerry, how are you going?
Hey Trevor, how's things going?
Yeah, we're good here. We're sort of just finishing up summer, so I guess you guys are finishing up winter. Well, I should say up there. We're down there.
Yes, sir. Snow's starting to come off the mountains. I can't wait to get out there in the gold fields, but I've been hunting some low country down low. Yes, sir.
Yeah, great. So when it's all snowed over like that, you just can't detect that ground. I mean, do people still detect during those sort of in those sort of terrains and those conditions?
If you have a big coil, you could, but usually you can't even get your vehicles back in there. You know, you're hiking in, and it's not worth it. Down in the flats in Nevada, if we're out there in 4 or 5 inches of snow, that's okay if we got a big coil. But up here in Idaho, it's mountains, so we don't even worry about it.
Yeah, I guess it'd freeze your fingers with the more holes you got to dig as well. So you got to think about all of that. You know, we do appreciate you having some time to chat with us about the new NOX coils. We've been very humbled by the interest and the excitement around these coils, and they were released on the 3rd of March publicly. We've been trying to catch up as best we can with the multitude of orders that we have. So we're getting there as quickly as we can, but we do appreciate everyone's patience. But we managed to get you some coils so you can have a bit of a try. So just talk about the 10x5 first, which is a beautiful little coil with a new design that we've got. There it is there, Gerry.
Yes, sir. The NOX 10x5, 10-inch lip is what I call it. Yes, sir.
10-inch lip, that's the one. Yeah, a nice open web, fully waterproof. So with the performance abilities on this 10x5, what would you expect from this 10x5 coil compared to some of the others?
Well, let's talk about gold hunting, for example.
Yep.
If you take a standard, we'll go back 15, 20 years, Lobo Super Track, the Minelab Eureka Gold, the Fisher Gold Bug 2, the White's GMT, the White's 24K, the Xterra 705 Gold Pack. What was it? It was a 10-inch elliptical coil. That's a perfect design for a lot of prospecting. Yes, sir. Right here. You've got it. Finally, we've been waiting. It's here.
Yeah, that's right. It sort of fits nicely in between that 6-inch round and an 11-inch round, which is why we definitely wanted to get that 10x5 there. It makes a good addition in that small coil range. But being elliptical, you know, what would you expect from it with this elliptical shape out in the field? So
the ellipticals gives you that nice toe, which you can get up under brush. You can get in rocks and crevices where nuggets like to hide. Yeah. If you're nugget hunting, or if you're hunting old sites that we have out west where there's a lot of sagebrush, getting that coil up in there. If you're water hunting rivers like I do here in Idaho, and rings like to come off, they float these rivers all the time, and rings come off and they get stuck between rocks. Yeah. Right. That's where this toe comes in. You can sweep in, you get plenty of ground coverage, but the toe is the key thing. When you have a rounded coil, you don't get that option. So perfect. And then the other thing about a 10-inch lip is a small coil does really well in trash. This narrowness is the same thing. This 5 inches across allows you to hunt in trash, but get extra ground coverage per sweep that a small round coil won't give you.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, that elliptical shape really tightens up the magnetic field, so you have some really good sensitivity. And with a narrow coil, there's not as many targets underneath the actual coil, so you've got some better separation there. You know, a pinpointing ability, what would you expect with this one, and where would you find that the pinpointing hotspot might be?
Well, I cheat a little bit. I do the heel toe method. So let's flip the coil over. This is a double D coil, so your hot spot is anywhere through here. And what I do is when I come across the target, let's just say it's my ring. I come across the target, well, like so, beep, beep, it's going to be through here. And then I start backing it down and backing it down and backing it down until it ends. And then as soon as it ends, it's right at the tip. Now, that's near a surface target, okay? If it's a deeper target, then it'll be zoomed in a little bit more in the center. The best thing about a narrow coil like this is fast target recovery, and a lot of park hunters like it, because literally when you get down and you use your pinpointer, boom, it's going to be right in that small little zone right through here. Yes, sir.
Yeah. So that sort of nose toe of the coil is definitely the most sensitive, where the windings cross over, and that's where the sensitivity starts. And you talked about the water hunting that you do sometime in the creeks and the streams and things in Idaho. This one being fully submersible. How do you think this one will go in the water as well?
There's good and bad when it comes to water hunting. If it's a lot of moving water, a smaller coil has less drag, so it's easier to be in control of. Okay, rivers have a lot of moving water. Streams, when you're nugget hunting, have a lot of moving water, so that smaller coil is going to be much better. Now, one of the other things I do, I like to go down to the Caribbean in the wintertime and hunt and metal detect a lot of the beaches. I love old piers that go out, and they have a lot of them in England. I just don't get to go over to them. What's good about an old pier is rusty nails along the sides of the piers and the jetties that go out mask targets, and a narrow coil will allow you to get out there and get all the treasures amongst all them rusty nails. You go out in the middle of the ocean on a regular beach, you don't find a bunch of nails. But around piers, a lot of people don't like to hunt them. That's because they don't have this right here. You can get much better target separation.
And that, again, that's that narrow field. So you're able to sort of pick up a target right next to another, which will be fantastic for it. So you're saying, some of the best places where you think these 10x5 coils will be suited, you're saying in the trashy areas and some overgrown areas?
I hunted a place here a couple weeks ago that I've been hunting for quite a few years, and it's just pretty much a trash pit. It's where they burned a lot of their stuff in the late 1800s and early 1900s. And I'm going in there and I'm popping non-ferrous targets that I've missed with all my other machines. A lot of it has to do with the recovery speed of the Equinox and this narrow coil. I got some Civil War era buttons, some bullets, some nice suspender clasps, and trashy areas. If you like to hunt old rodeo grounds, if you like to hunt old parks and schools, and there's a lot of pull tabs and bottle caps, you don't want to dig those. But with this narrow coil, it gives you much better target separation. And as a bonus, your detector will have a better, more accurate identification on the target with a smaller coil, and your depth indicator won't be easily as fooled by other targets around it because it sees less ground. Smaller coil sees less mineralized ground, which allows it to find a smaller nugget easier.
And in your region, do you have much mineralized ground that you can get onto? So, like you're saying, with this smaller coil, it's not as affected, but if you do get into those areas, what would you do with the coil then?
We don't have a high concentration of mineralization up here in Idaho, but I like to travel down to Nevada and Arizona where they do. And there again, the majority of the nuggets is small nuggets if I'm nugget hunting. So why not get a small coil like this that can see them little nuggets better, give you a better target response than your stock coil, and a much easier, faster pinpointing. But like I said, when I'm nugget hunting, those cracks and crevices under bushes, between rocks where nuggets like to hide, that's where this toe comes in. Yes, sir.
And so with the sensitivity of the coil being such a smaller coil, and the depth, sensitivity, depth, there's always a bit of a trade-off when you go from small coils to big coils. But with the small coil, we're seeing some pretty good results with some decent depth, but the sensitivity of this coil is going to be great for those smaller targets. Have you had a opportunity to find any small stuff yet and test out its sensitivity?
We haven't been able to do any nugget hunting yet with them. We've only had them 2 weeks, but I'll tell you this from previous experience. I've been metal detecting for 45 years. I've been hunting gold in a lot of countries for 25 years. A smaller coil allows the detector, the operator of the detector, to turn the gain or sensitivity up, so I can even get better performance than the stock coil. So not only am I getting better accuracy on my identification with a smaller coil on the machine, and not only am I seeing less mineralized ground, so that my machine's going to run more smoother, I actually get to increase the depth capability because I'm running a smaller coil.
Yeah.
It's called sensitivity or gain, and you're allowed to turn that up with a smaller coil, and you're going to see results. Yes, sir. Been doing it for a lot of years.
Yeah, that's a really good point because, everyone likes running everything flat out, but sometimes when you're flat out, it can bring in a lot of extra noise and ground noise, atmospheric noise, movement noise, because everything's just livened up too much. So being able to turn that gain up on this small coil is as a real bonus.
Yes, sir.
Especially if you're nugget hunting too. Like you're saying, you haven't had a chance to get out there yet. And once things thaw out a little bit more and you have an opportunity, we'll be looking forward to seeing some results there. Where can people see some of your finds and talk with you a bit more about it?
I've got a lot of plans for this summer with these small coils. And I don't know how much time you have, Trevor, but let's say you're an urban hunter and you like to hunt tot lots or playgrounds where there's a lot of kids, okay? Mama's out there with the baby, and I get this call all the time because I belong to different organizations and they call me to help find stuff. When I'm in a tot lot, a bigger coil cannot get close to a metal fence or close to some of the metal toys in tot lots or at the back of high schools and junior highs or parks where there's a running fence. If it's metal, these smaller coils can get closer, but yet what people don't understand is that's where they hang their jackets, okay? That's where they're leaning up against all the time and stuff's always falling out of their pockets. That's when they're jumping over fences all the time and stuff's falling off their pockets or a necklace is coming off.
Yep.
This smaller coil can get in that spot where my bigger coils just can't quite get there because there's too much metal, and that's what we call a dead zone.
Yep.
Well, it ain't dead if you have one of these.
No, that's right. You can get right up a lot closer to those metallic objects, the
Yes,
playgrounds and things like that. So it makes a really good point. And, we're all looking for that little bit of an advantage of where to go. And the coils can actually give you even more advantage because not every coil is going to do the same thing. And not one coil is going to be able to do everything. So where would be your most favorite location for this 10x5 coil? Well,
you're talking to a guy that does it all. So I've hunted fields in England that there is nothing but iron everywhere. That would be one of my favorites right there, is this small coil when I'm hunting England. If I'm hunting nuggets, as I mentioned to you, this I can already tell this is going to be one of the premier nugget coils on the Equinox, this 10-inch lip. We've been asking for it, and it's finally here. That's going to be what you see a lot of guys running it for, is this 10-inch lip nugget hunting.
Yeah.
I love to hunt old trashy areas. Railroad sites, old mining camps where there's rusty cans and square nails, old farmhouses, and this little coil right here can separate amongst the trash. So I don't have just one favorite. And then, as I told you, getting out in those piers where there's a lot of trash, or along those boardwalks where there's a lot of trash, better target separation right here, sir.
Fantastic. Well, it seems like you got a fair bit of detecting to redo and to go over some areas that you've already used a coil. Why would someone use a little 10x5 if let's say they've only got the 11-inch and they've been using that very successfully because the machines are fantastic and the 11-inch coils are really good coil? Why would someone, have a benefit of buying this 10x5 and you sort of explained the areas you would go. What would you comment to someone who hasn't used a 10x5 before, where to start and what to do with the coil?
Well, let's just say that the average person that is going to call me up and say, Gerry, what's the reason for a 10x5? And I'm going to tell them, are you a nugget hunter? Well, yes, I am. I know as a nugget hunter for a lot of years, there's more smaller nuggets. This smaller coil gives me greater sensitivity for a small nugget. If that individual says, well, no, I'm not really a nugget hunter, but I like to hunt old sites. And I go out there and all I hear is chatter, 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 and that my ID on my machine's bouncing all around. This smaller coil is going to give you, as I'd mentioned earlier, that better target separation to find that one good Indian head penny or that one old Civil War button next to all that rusty square nails and trash, whatnot. So let's just say you're a park hunter, modern park hunter. Yeah. The recovery speed with a narrow coil that pinpoints much faster and more accurate is going to give you more targets in an hour. You multiply that times 4 to 6 hours a day, you're gaining more targets, you're gaining more treasures in the same amount of time. Yes, sir.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, really, we do this hobby because we love finding the treasure. It's really a big treasure hunt. And if we can get more targets retrieved per day, that it's potentially going to give us even more good bounty for our pockets, which is a really good thing. And everyone loves finding a good relic too. There's nothing wrong with finding the belt buckles and the buttons and things like that, because you can just put the stories into your head where that came from and what might have happened to get there. So far with the 10x5, what's the best thing that you've found with it so far? I know you haven't done a lot and we're going to see some really good stuff coming forwards, but what's the best target you found with it so far?
Probably a couple Civil War era cuff buttons, a cannon primer fuse, I think is what they call it, a cannon primer fuse. If you have a stock coil and you've hunted an area, don't think you've hunted it all. Go back over it with this coil. You're going to gain those targets that you missed with your stock coil, because the bigger the coil, the more masking happens in trashy sites. So if you're running a site and you've gridded it both ways, I guarantee this coil will give you more targets in that same field, in that same site. I've proven it many times.
Yeah, for sure. And you understand the detectors and what the coils do and the reason why you have different coils. And we do too. That's why we make these extra coils, because we understand that they do something different from the 6-inch, the 11 and the 15x12. Our 10x5, 14x9 and 15 round are all going to perform slightly different. It's not to say one's better than the other. It's just essentially that they will do something different and see a different target window, have different responses on certain size targets, the orientation. Like you said before, magnetic fields and mineralization, they can be a bit of a hassle. So knowing which coil to use where makes a big difference.